Hi, I'm Hannah. Welcome to my channel, Mostly Paper Crafts. I love Halloween, and I have been busy creating over 50 different designs for Halloween cards, and I cannot wait to share them with you. I'm going to talk about each one a little bit. Not too much because I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, but I hope that you're going to get a lot of ideas and inspiration from these designs, and I hope that you are going to make some awesome Halloween cards too.
For my first card, I have the Donut Scream card. This hand is from Spellbinders. The donut stamp and the donut are from Concord and 9th. Kscraft does the little spider and the scream. I've got some dimension on this card, so I've got my donut popped up on some foam, did some inking. I did some die cut inlay with some sparkly sprinkles, made some little eyeballs on there. There's also some ink splattering in the background. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. All right, card number 2 also features that hand from Spellbinders. Actually, everything on here is from Spellbinders, including the rectangle die. I really love the way that they make this impression, but I really wanted my skeleton hand to be holding a rose, and this was the closest die that I could find. This is actually from their B set. It was one of the large die of the month clubs, and I think that that sizing worked out okay. I colored that with my alcohol markers, and then I've got a couple of layers behind that with some shimmery black paper and some glitter black paper, but I really love this card. For my third card, we have a Spooky Greetings. This die is from Spellbinders. This spider is from Kscraft. This spider web stamp is very old, and it was just one of those cheap, like $1 stamps that you could pick up at Michael's back in the day. I did take another stamp and I did some ghost stamping, so stamp off the main inked bit just to get a lighter stamp around. I also did some inking in the background, and then all of these dots, that actually isn't splatter, that is a stamp from My Favorite Things, and I did the ghost stamping again, so you can see the first stamping is here, and then every time I would stamp it, it would get lighter, but I really love the effect that I got from that. So that's card number 3. For card number 4, I used the same Spooky Greetings die. So that was from Spellbinders. We've got some ghosts that are from Sizzix, and these spiderweb border dies are from Spellbinders. It's actually one piece for each corner, and then these little circle pieces are another. So there are 6 different die cuts to create that spiderweb border. Where they connect, I put some square gems, and then there are a bunch of other gems on here as well. Did some inking and some splattering in the background, and I really love this too. So these cards kind of have a similar background, but totally different techniques other than distress black soot inking around the edges. And here's card number 5. So everything on here is from Spellbinders. That's actually not true. All of these die cut pieces here are from Spellbinders. And then the layers in the back, oh gosh, the back one is Spellbinders, but this one is from Honeybee. I've got a lot of glitter and shine going on here. Love this cupcake, and I really, really, really loved the white with the glitter to make it vanilla. I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out at first. Before I added the glitter, I really didn't like the effect, but once I had the glitter on there, I love it. Moving on to card number 6. So many die cut pieces on here. The tiered tray is from Spellbinders. We've got a skull from Kscraft. A lot of these are from Spellbinders. And you know, this pumpkin, I love this pumpkin. This is a die from Spellbinders, and it's just 3 pieces. There's the die for the pumpkin and the stem, and then there's another piece if you want to make it into a jack-o'-lantern, but I just really love the texture of that one. Our spider is from Sizzix, as well as the cat. I think that the candy corn is from Pink Posh, Pretty Pink Posh. That sounds right. I did some stamping on some of these pieces up here just to give them a little more interest. And I really want to do a whole series of these tiered trays with different Halloween elements, and definitely for different holidays, but it was just really fun to put this all together. And my sentiments on the inside. Let's get spooky. So that's number 6, and we've got kind of a similar idea for card number 7. This is actually the last card that I made out of my whole batch, and I had the idea from the very beginning that I wanted to take the shopping cart from Spellbinders and fill it with a bunch of Halloween things. I just thought that that would be really fun. But what I ended up doing was just putting a bunch of pieces in that I had already created. And if I were to have done the card from scratch, and maybe it was the first card I was making, I probably would have put a little more thought and effort into which pieces I chose and maybe the colors. But I really just filled this with pieces that were left over, and I think it turned out pretty fun. So happy Halloween here. The background die with the X's, I really like that subtle texture, and I really wish I would have thought to do it on this card. And I did this one, and then I did this one. But if I were to do it again, and I will do more of the tiered tray, I will do a die that adds some texture. The next couple cards feature some things from Lawn Fawn. So if you're familiar with the Lawn Fawn tiny gift box, there are a bunch of add-ons that create different characters and critters, and these are the 3 Halloween ones. So we've got the jack-o'-lantern, the bat, and the ghost. So I've got them all stacked up with an MFT sentiment, my favorite things. No one stacks up to you. Little piece of pattern paper there in the background. This one's pretty clean and simple, and I just think it turned out adorable. For my 9th card, we've got more products from Lawn Fawn. I used some black glitter paper and their spooky trees die to create the frame and the trees here. And then I've got lots of bats from their stamp sets. These were colored with alcohol markers, and then I fussy cut them out. We're all a little batty. This sentiment is from, oh gosh, I actually don't remember. I don't remember, but it was not a Lawn Fawn the stamp. We've got some texture in the background with some splatter. I did some ink blending back there. And then the moon is actually just a piece of yellowed paper, and I did some gold inking around the edges to give that some extra interest. And card number 10. This pattern paper in the background is from scrapbook.com, and then I have just a few fussy cut Lawn Fawn images that I had colored with my alcohol markers. I did some inking around the edges to give that some interest. I added some shimmery splatter as well as some little dots using my stickles, and I think this turned out beautiful. It was not my original idea for that card, but I'm really happy with how it came together. I just went and checked. This stamp is from Colorado Craft Company. Moving on to card number 11, we've got more Lawn Fawn stuff here. So these stamps are from Lawn Fawn as well as the sentiment, and the postage stamp die in the back is from Waffle Flower Crafts. These are all colored with my alcohol markers, and I think it's just a really cute way to display all of the different images. There's so many different things that you can do with the postage collage die, and this is one of my first times using it actually. I've done just a few other projects. Moving away from Lawn Fawn, this background stamp is from Hero Arts, and it's a cling stamp. It's one of my all-time favorites. It is stamped in a glow-in-the-dark embossing powder, so it will glow. And then I have colored in the ghosts and the skeletons with my Wink of Stella, and we've got a couple more dies here. Happy Halloween is from Hero Arts as well, and our little ghost here is from Spellbinders. For card number 13, I'm featuring a stamp that is from Newton's Nook, and it is stamped in an alcohol marker friendly ink, and then I just colored it with my alcohol markers. This is from Fawn, the die that I used to create the scallop circle, and the boo, which is popped up a little bit, that is from scrapbook.com. Now, the only other thing that I did to this is I did go in with my stickles and I colored over my candy corns, and then I used a different color stickles to do my stars. So just to give it some extra shimmer, we've got the glitter paper and we've got the glitter stickles. Now my next two cards also feature that same stamp, but this time, instead of layering the scallop circle in front, I've got it behind so we can just see a little bit of that there. I've got some pattern paper in the back, I believe that's from Fawn. And this time I stamped in a different ink and I was able to heat emboss with it, so there's a little bit more shine around the outside, but I still colored these with my alcohol markers. I really don't remember who makes this Happy Halloween die. I love it. It might be Maker's Movement, but I really don't remember. And card number 15 features that same stamp again. This time you can see what the whole stamp looks like because it's not cut off by a circle die. So the images, this is all one stamp, create a circular image, and then it's just really fun to color. I use the same colors of alcohol markers on all of these, but I got very different effects because of how I did the rest of the layout. My Spooky Greetings is from Spellbinders. I have some black sequins. They're nice and shiny. And then I just took a pen and I doodled around the outside to give this a different border because it just looked a little bit plain. Now, I do love cards that are clean and simple, but in this case, I wanted to add just a little bit more. I actually went in and added some other little hash marks kind of as an embellishment there as well. So 13, 14, and 15, these all feature the same stamp from Newton's Nook, but you can see the cards turned out very differently. I don't have a blog, but I do post pictures of a lot of my cards on my Instagram. It's at What Hannah's Making. I had created one that was mostly paper crafts, but it's just too hard for me to keep up with multiple Instagram accounts. So if you do want to see the cards in a little bit more detail, you can find me on Instagram at What Hannah's Making. And this is a sheet that I was splattering on in my splatter box. Card number 16. We've got lots of things to talk about on this one. So these die cuts are from Sizzix. They're Tim Holtz dies. Each one is just 2 pieces. They layer together really easily. But the background was so fun to make. So it's a stamp that says Happy Spooky Season. And then I've just done some repeated stamping and some ghost stamping to create that fun effect in the background. So you can see some of them are darker than others, and you really don't have to put too much time or effort into making sure that things are lined up just right, because by the time you get all the stamping done, and then I ink blended around the outside, and then I did some splatter, it just creates a really neat effect overall. So I love how that had turned out. This sentiment, I believe, is from Simon Says Stamp. Nothing on the inside there, but lots of visual interest in the background of this card. Card number 17, something totally different here. This die is from Sizzix, from Tim Holtz, and it's a lot of fun to put this together. You can see I did all of the accents in a gold metallic paper, and then I did some ink blending behind all of the windows, just with some yellow and orange ink to make it look a little more interesting than if it was just a solid yellow or a solid orange. For my background, I did some light ink blending on a gray paper, and then I splattered it with black, and then I just tore the edges off to give it that look. More ink blending here. We've got Hey Ghoul. This ghost die is, I believe, from Ellen Hutson. And the Hey Ghoul, which I really like, I don't remember. You know, if you know where this Hey Ghoul is from, maybe you can put it into the comments. What I do with a lot of my dies is I take them out of their original packaging and I put them on big magnetic sheets, and then I just have no record of where they came from. So lots of fun though. The paper in the back is from scrapbook.com. I did some ink blending around the outside to darken that up a little bit, and then I also did some splattering with some shimmer from Spellbinders. It's Sparkle Silk. I actually had it right next to me so I can show you that. It makes a really neat shimmery splattery background. More ink blending and more stamping techniques here. So this one is repeated stamping again. I didn't do a ghost technique, but it was a pretty decent chunk of text. So the whole stamp is about that size. I believe it's from Echo Park, and I just stamped it over and over and over. Kind of looks like a newspaper in the background. I did use some black distress ink around the edges. I did do some splattering on here again with my Sparkle Silk. I actually use this on a lot of cards. We've got some gems. And this boo, this is from Mama Elephant. It's from a larger sentiment that says boo to you, and I just use the boo here. For our balloons, this one is from Kscraft and this one is from Spellbinders. So lots of mix and match with the different companies here. But I really love the color and the effect that I got with that repeated stamping. So that's number 19. This will be number 20. We're using some more pattern paper here. Maybe Cartabella. I'm not exactly sure. We've got that Hey Ghoul die again. And what I had done originally is I had cut it out of the pattern paper, and you can see the black lettering there. I actually did die cut inlay to put that in there, but it just wasn't enough contrast. So then I did some orange inking, and I didn't like that either. So I added the Hey Ghoul on top. That's like a shimmer white paper. And it was starting to get a little better, but I went in with an orange stickles and I highlighted around all of the letters to give them just a little bit more oomph. I added some gems, but my favorite thing about this is I actually took a scrap of this same paper and I cut out some of the ghosts, and then they're popped up on some foam. So I used some of the ghosts here as embellishments. I had to stop and count, make sure I hadn't lost count of my cards. This is number 21. We've got Spooktacular. This die is from scrapbook.com. I did put some stickles on the top. It's actually a purple glitter paper with the stickles, and I love how that turned out. And then the paper in the background it's old. I've had it for at least 10 years. I have no idea where it's from, but I love these skulls. And I did some inking around the edges. I did some enamel accents for the eyes. And these eyes down here were actually, they were green, just the way that the pattern on the paper was, and I just thought it was too much green, so I just used an alcohol marker to color them purple, and that's it. This really came together nicely. Sometimes these simpler cards, you think, oh, that probably didn't take very long to make, but I spent quite a bit of time on all of the cards I made thinking about the design and trying things, and if I didn't like them, trying something else. But now that this card is designed, I could very quickly crank out a bunch of these. Problem for me is I don't like mass producing, so this is the only one like this that I will ever make. Oh, it's holographic paper in the background, and I really like that extra shine that we get. So that's card number 21. For card number 22, we've got more pattern paper. It's from the same pack as this, so I've had it at least a decade, and I did a lot of different techniques here. So the trick or treat, I actually used a die cut. So the trick or treat is a die. Actually, I can give you a peek at the next card. You can see it's die cut out there, but I used it as a stencil. So I held it down and then I ink blended over it, which left my letters unblended, uninked, and that's why they're lighter than the background. And then I highlighted with a gold marker, so I went around all the letters, and then I added glossy accents, so you can see that cool glossy accent shine. But actually I did the bottoms of the letters first, and then I added some Prisma glitter, and then I did the tops of the letters. So that's why there's glitter just on the bottoms of them. Besides that, I added a bunch of gems for some extra sparkle and shine. There was already glitter on this pattern paper. This card's a lot of fun. You already got a peek at this next card. So it uses the same paper and the same die cut, but totally different techniques here. So I did ink around the edges. I think that gives the pattern paper just a little bit more personality, especially when you're just cutting a piece and putting it on a card. And I really like having a white frame on my cards, especially with a sentiment that's mostly in white here. The trick or treat is in a white glitter paper. I've die cut it a couple of times so that I could do an offset shadow there. And then you can see all of this really fun texture. This is Cosmic Shimmer Fluffy Stuff. So you put it on and then you heat it up with your heat tool and it bubbles, and it just looks really cool. And as far as I can tell, even after going through the mail, it should still have that awesome texture. And these little stars are die cut, and I just glued them on as embellishments. Oh, and I did some ink splattering in a couple of different colors on this paper. So 2 cards using the same die, although this doesn't actually have the die on it, but the same pattern paper and 2 very different effects. Card number 24, we're featuring some more pattern paper here. No idea where it's from. We've got some black glitter as a strip down the side. These dies for the cauldron are from Whimsy Stamps, and the Haunted Wishes, I believe, is from Crafter's Companion. It actually comes as one long strip with a spider web in between, but I liked it better cut into 2 pieces. Now on my pattern paper, to give it some more interest, I did use my Wink of Stella on some of the elements so you can see some shine there. I also did some ink splattering, and I spent a good amount of time just figuring out where I wanted to cut the pattern paper to figure out how I wanted it to lay on my card. All right, card number 25. This is my creepy card, and I just love this little cluster of elements in the corner. This background paper is from scrapbook.com. So I used the same paper in an earlier card. You can see here having it not inked versus having it inked. These elements are from, actually most of these are from Kscraft. So the spider, the skull, and the creepy, and then the little pumpkin is from Hero Arts. We've got some dimension on creepy, and then I did do some glitter on the bottom of the letters. I really like the way that die cut words look when they're dipped in glitter. And there's some gems as well. So that's card number 25. Card number 26. This is actually the only shaped card that I did, and it's not that exciting of a shape. It's just an oval. That's from Spellbinders. And I really enjoy putting sentiments with Halloween cards that didn't necessarily go with Halloween sets. So this is from scrapbook.com. It's from a new set. Let's get into the holiday spirit. And then I'm using some pattern paper that is from the same pad as this. So it's been in my stash a long time. I'm really glad that it's getting used. I've got some dimension on this, and actually to get this oval popped up so nice, I used this larger oval to cut out a piece of craft foam. And so it's one solid piece. When you feel this, it's nice and solid, and that foam cuts really easily. So that's a fun way to do that. I did ink around the edges of my pattern paper to give it a little bit more something something. And this card's pretty simple. I could probably produce a lot of these very quickly, but I probably spent at least 25 minutes designing this one for the first time. All right, that was 26. 27, Trick or Treat. This die is from Mama Elephant, and then we've got a background stencil that is from Simon Says Stamp. It's candy corns and the candy corn pumpkins. Do you like candy corn? I love candy corn. I love that marshmallow flavor. So I did that on Craft. That way the white would show up. I did my die cut twice, and I'm using a metallic paper as well as a metallic brown underneath, so that has a little bit of shine as well. And then a mixture of embellishments here. I use some pops of color as well as some little gems. Card number 28. We saw this frame die a little bit earlier. It's from Lawn Fawn. So for my trees, I've actually got them cut twice. So if you look closely, you can see there's two different colors of black here because I really needed it to stand off of the background. So I cut it out of the solid black, I cut it out of the shimmer black, and then that back layer, actually cut it in half and cut off a little bit so that I could scoot this side this way and this side that way so that I would be able to get that outline on both sides. And then I do have an additional frame cut around the outside just for a little bit more interest. Now for the background, what are we looking at here? I used a stencil with some white paste. I don't remember which paste I used to get the eyes. And then I used a couple of different boo stamps, possibly from different stamp sets, to put a little bit more interest into the background. So we've got the eyes using texture paste and then a white pigment ink with boo stamps to get the rest of that. I've got a couple of stamps here on the inside. I believe these are LDRS. And that is card number 28. Card number 29 features a big boo die from Sizzix from Tim Holtz. This is also popped up on some foam. So I took the shadow die for the boo, ran that through a piece of foam so that it's got some nice solid texture. I really like the way that this feels versus using a bunch of little foam squares. The black boo here it was a scrap because I had cut, actually out of the next card, I'm looking over to see where it came from. This was cut out of another piece and then I was able to use it here. But what's really fun about this card is the background. So this stamp back here is called the Bones Brothers. I'll show you. This is one of my very favorite stamps. 1987 All Night Media. This stamp is almost as old as I am, still stamps beautifully, and I did the technique where I ink it up, stamp it, and then do the ghost stamping one around with my distress ink around the outside, did some different splattering with some different colors, and that's how I got the background. Now, I also used the shadow die for Boo to cut out from this panel, and I popped that up as well. So it's almost continuous other than the added dimension. And then card number 30, so now you'll see where this boo came from. It actually came from cutting it out of this piece. I used the boo word, cut that out with some foam, so that's popped up too. And this background die with the stars, can't think of who makes it, my apologies, but it's layered over a piece of silver metallic paper, so that's why the stars are nice and shiny there in the background, and you can see them here as well. So those are actually behind the black. And then we have some ghosts that are from a Spellbinders set. I did also cut a few more stars out of that same silver metallic paper, just as some additional embellishments there. There's a few gems around. So not really a 2-for-1, but I did use this boo from this sheet, and it kind of inspired this card. And we're up to 30. The reason that I got into card making is because I love stamping. So you've seen a few different stamping techniques on these cards so far, and this card has a lot of tiny, 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 tiny stamps on it. These are all from Papertrey. So the house is separate from the door and the windows and the roof, and these tiny bats, and even this little face. Look how small that is. That is a stamp. That is a stamp on that little ghost, and so is that. That's a stamp. That's, I mean, you can see how small it is compared to my fingernail. Tiny, tiny stamps, and I created a little scene. This stamp set has coordinating dies, which is how I created my ghosts here, and my fence. The Have a Frightfully Spooky Halloween. This is from Colorado Craft Company. And this is one of those cards that, you know, if people are used to seeing some of the more modern techniques, they might not like it as much. They may not be as impressed with it. But I think this is fabulous. This is so much painstaking stamping to get things in the right place. So many little pieces. I absolutely love this. I love this kind of card. This next card also features lots of stamps. These are from LDRS. They are not anywhere near as tiny, but all of these stamps are from LDRS. I believe this sentiment is as well. For my bow, I did fussy cut that out and popped it up on some foam. That's the only dimension on this. I kept this one really clean and simple. More stamping. These fun pumpkins are from Maker's Movement, who sadly has gone out of business, but I was able to snag these last year, and the way the pumpkins work is there are 3 different pumpkin outlines, and then there are a ton of different faces, so you can really mix and match. I stamped them onto orange cardstock. I colored them with an orange colored pencil, and then I used the coordinating dies to cut them out. I added just a little bit of detail with some white gel pen. We've got a pattern paper on the back. You won't be surprised to hear that it's from the same pad as this. I'll have to go look and see who made that pad. And then the Trick or Treat stamp here in the middle is from Simon Says Stamp. But lots of fun pumpkins on here. This card definitely makes me smile. And I actually have another card featuring a couple of those pumpkins. Now we've got a clean and simple version. Give 'em Pumpkin to talk about. This is from Hutson, I believe. And then again, these are from Maker's Movement. I've got my rectangle of white layered on black, and then onto my card base. For non-card makers, I think people take for granted how much time and effort it can take to just line things up so that everything is squared off. But clean and simple, Give 'em Pumpkin to talk about. I think these guys are adorable. And then for card number 30, I'm actually going to show you 2. I'm only counting it as 1 because they're very similar to each other, but so much stamping again. So we've got a bunch of witches and the sentiment, if the broom fits, ride it. Lots and lots of companies that are represented here. After I did my stamping, I did some distress ink around the outside, and then I went in with my Wink of Stella and I colored in the stars. So you can see there's just a little bit of shine there. And I think, again, for people who love stamping, this is a great design. I do have one more I can show you. This is what it looked like without adding any additional ink. So here you can see the difference of what adding the ink around the edges looks like. And just to show you, I use lots of different kinds of blending brushes, but this is the one that I use. Just use the Distress ink. Sometimes I use black soot and an oxide, sometimes it's just the ink. It doesn't really matter, and just move it around the edge. But I think it's nice to be able to see the difference here of what that can add to your design. Card number 36, Clean and Simple, Too Cute to Spook. The frame is from Lawn Fun, as well as the pattern paper. And this adorable little kitty with a pumpkin hat is from Spellbinders. Can't remember Too Cute to Spook. Lots of different sets have that sentiment, but I just thought that font worked out really well with this adorable kitty. Not everyone appreciates Halloween the same way that I do. Some people really like the cutesy, and I think there's a lot to be said about white space on a card, and I really love clean and simple designs. 37 is another clean and simple. We've got Hey Boo and this adorable ghost. Those are from scrapbook.com. My scallop circle is from Lawn Fun. I've added a couple of gems. There's just a little bit of speckling with the Wink of Stella in the background, and I did do Wink of Stella on my sentiment as well to give that a little bit of shine. And my pink circle here, I did do some ink splattering on that with some black and white before I cut that out. So another clean and simple card here that's pretty cute and in a different color palette. Keeping with the theme of clean and simple, I love this card. I think that you would love it more maybe if you could see it in person, but let me tell you what I really love about it. So we've got just a simple boo sentiment here. No idea where I got that from, but the pattern paper in the back has little ghosts. And so I spent some time figuring out how much I wanted. You know, there was a lot of measuring involved to make sure I got the ghosts in the place that I wanted on the card. And I have the top and the bottom, the white here, popped up. So you can see that is all popped up with dimension. And I was gonna leave it just like that. But here's when I got my brilliant idea. So here's a bone folder here. You can see this kind of just floats right over the top. I can hear it a little bit actually. But these gems are basically at the same height now as my white cardstock. And that means when I go to mail this, and I'll just put an extra piece of cardstock in here, just an extra rectangle, it'll go right over top, and then this card is going to be completely flat. I'm always hesitant when I'm mailing cards that have big gems on them because I don't want them to get caught in the machines. And even if you put a non-machinable stamp on your card, we know sometimes it still goes through the machine and gets chewed up, but this will eliminate that. So the card will be completely flat. I've got all that sparkle and shine, and I was able to use all of these adorable gems. I really, really love this card. I really love the next cards too. This stamp is also vintage. It's not quite as old as my Bones Brothers, but I think it's from the 90s. It's just one stamp. I did stamp it with a black ink VersaFine Onyx Clair, I believe. And then I heat embossed it, so you'll see there's a little bit of shine there. And then I just spent a lot of time coloring it with my alcohol markers. So you can see even around the outside, we've got some shading on the inside. Very clean and simple, very nice and flat. I do have a couple of mattes here to give me some color around the edges, but I love the clean and simple. And I love that I got to use a vintage stamp. And card number 40, it's hard to pick favorites. I mean, I made over 50 designs for Halloween this year, but I just love how this one came out. So we've got this Happy Halloween die. Still don't remember where it's from. Might be Maker's Movement. We've got this cauldron that I used earlier. This is from Honeybee. My little kitty cat here is from Hero Arts. I've got a stencil that I used with some lunar paste, maybe solar paste. I don't remember now, but I love that shine. I used a Sizzix die to cut out these stars. I've got a purple metallic paper behind there. And then the stars, you can see they're a slightly different color. I did do Wink of Stella over this whole area before I layered it up. And the die cut pieces from this paper, which I'd already stenciled, I did put the stars back on, so you can see I use them as an additional element there, an additional embellishment. So there's some ink blending on my bubbling cauldron. There's some stickles, so there's some glitter. I did layer the Happy Halloween over some purple glitter paper. The kitty's eyes, I used enamel accents for that. So there's just a lot of beautiful shine and detail, and I just really love the composition here. The pattern paper, don't remember where it's from. It's not quite as old as some of that other paper I've been using, but I just love this. Just love it. I've got 10 more new designs to show you, and then I may have some bonuses for you as well. So here is card number 41. This die is from Maker's Movement. It actually is in the same set as those funny pumpkins with the interchangeable faces. We've got some pattern paper down here in the background. I did take the time to ink blend and do some fussy cutting to put some color behind all of the windows and the doors here. So lots of color. Spooky Wishes, this stamp is from Simon Says Stamp, and then my dots here are a stamp from My Favorite Things. I've got a few more little splattery details up here, and then I realized after I had done all of those dots that my sentiment was kind of fading away a little bit, so I did restamp it with a clear Versamark ink and heat embossed it, and that made it stand out just a little bit more. 42 is a shaker. Trick or Treat, this big die is from Photo Play, I think. I had ink blended some candy corn colors on a sheet of white cardstock and did some splatter with my sparkle silk before I die cut that. And then this is a full panel shaker. So the background in here is just a piece of black cardstock that I did some ink splattering on, and then I filled it up with a bunch of sequins. So we've got some like normal sequins in here, as well as some that say boo, there's some spiders, and there's one little ghost in there. So it's a lot of fun to shake this up. I was able to find sequins that matched the color scheme of my candy corn very well, and then I added the purple just for fun and just for a pop of color. Here's another full panel shaker. So the way that I made these full panel shakers is I had some transparency sheets, so 8.5 by 11 acetate basically, and I cut them down and used my scoring tool to make my rectangles just a little bit bigger than 4 1/4 and 5.5. And then there are tabs on each side, and I used a double-sided adhesive to get that to stick. So for this one, I've got a I've got an orange textured cardstock in the back there. I used a stencil for my jack-o'-lantern faces. We've got a ribbon here. Hey Pumpkin is from Simon Says Stamp. This pumpkin is from Sizzix, I believe. I have so many bats and spider webs. I have no idea where those are from, but filled this one full of a different mixture of sequins, and it's lots of fun to shake it around. My next couple of cards are very similar, so I'm only counting this as one. I used the same die twice, which is why we've got the opposite patterns here in the background, the opposite colors. And I used the same Trick or Treat die from Mama Elephant for both. This one is popped up on some more foam because I actually cut the foam using the Trick or Treat die on this one. Here, I just have it layered up a couple of times to give it some dimension, but this one is much more flat than this one is. Both of these have spider sequins. They're so shiny. To get them to stick, I did use thin foam squares, so I was not confident that glue would be enough to hold them in place, and the little foam squares give it a little bit of dimension too. So my spiderweb die on these is actually from Maker's Movement, and it makes a big full circle, and then I just trimmed it off to do the corners. I liked the sizing of that, so that's why I chose to do it this way. I did use a star die to get my additional star embellishments on these, and you can see here the designs are very similar, so I only counted this as one card. This card took forever because of all of the fussy cutting. These little jars and bottles are from a Stampin' Up! Scrapbook paper that I've been hoarding for a long time because it's so cute, but I thought they would be really fun in this cabinet. So the cabinet is from Waffle Flower. Got a Hocus Pocus stamp in there. I think that might be from Echo Park. So it's got just a little bit of interactivity here, and you know, I spent a lot of time putting this together, but I actually don't love it. So I wish that instead of spending all that time to cut out these jars, I would have just done some stamping and done some coloring and cut them out. But it's still fun, and I'm sure whoever gets it will love it. This is my husband's favorite card that I made, I think. So even though I don't like it that much, I'm sure that somebody else will love it just fine. All right, card number 46. Happy Halloween. Still don't remember where that's from. We've got some bats. They're cut out of black paper, and then I've got a lot of Wink of Stella on them. I actually went over them several times to get that effect. These fun skeletons are from Trinity Stamps. So they are stamped with white ink and white embossing powder and heat embossed, and they're die cut out. So that's how we get that effect of the white with the black around it. It's white ink on black paper. For the background, this is a lawn fawn die with the stars, and it's actually die cut inlay, so I didn't use a whole sheet of black glitter paper behind that. I cut it out a second time using the black glitter paper, and I put them in. I just like the way that that looks a little bit better. And for my green piece, I did use a light green piece of paper to start, and then I did some darker green inking around the outside, and then some black, and then some splatter, and that's how I achieved that fun effect there. My next card also features these fun skeletons from Trinity Stamps, as well as a piece of pattern paper that is, don't remember where it's from. Sorry, I thought I knew, but I've lost it. It's a Dia de los Muertos paper. It's glossy. There were tons of really neat designs in that pack, but I loved the way that that looked with our skeletons. I used some thin metallic stickers along the edges here. The Viva La Vida stamp is from Spellbinders, and then I've also got some gems as embellishments throughout the card. I've got one more card featuring these funny skeletons. We've got an ink blended background. I believe I started with a gray, did some black, did some splattering. There's black, white, and the sparkle silk. Lots of different texture on the background there. And the Spooktacular die is from scrapbook.com. Now, I cut it out of black glitter paper, and then I used my sparkle silk just on the bottoms of the letters to get that dipped look that I like so much. And then the shadow die, I used a vellum just so it would set it off from the background a little bit more. All right, that was card number 48. I've got two more. I saved the gory cards for last. So this card features a creepy trick-or-treat die. I believe it's from Maker's Movement. I know I used this on several cards earlier. I don't think that I said where it was from, and I don't remember for sure. But I've got lots of fun things going on here. The stamps are from Kindred Stamps, and the paper is red. And then I did a bunch of splattering with red, but I also did a red blood stencil that is from Kindred Stamps to get some more of that. I did a red spray, and I did a black stamp. So this wasn't black splatter, but a black stamp from My Favorite Things I used on several other cards to get that pattern there in the middle. Now, for my letters, the way I achieved this glittery, bloody effect is this top trick or treat is actually cut out of white paper, and then I ink blended black at the top of the letters and red at the bottom, and then I did a red stickles or pops of color or something to get that ooey gooey glittery effect. And then of course this trick or treat die cut is layered on top of another one. I did black glitter paper underneath there. Hope your holiday isn't a nightmare. That stamp is from Kindred Stamps as well. And card number 50. This one was a lot of fun to do. There's some red spray on the background. I did a red distress embossing glaze through the stencil to get that other shiny blood back there. And then for my dies, let's see if I can remember. This curtain is from Spellbinders, and I believe the curtain rod, it may be from Spellbinders, it possibly My Favorite Things. If we lift it up, so this is cut out of vellum, we've got a tub and a shower here. These are from Fawn, and I just stamped them, did a little bit of ink blending with my alcohol markers, and fussy cut those out. So we've got our bloody shower scene here, and on the inside we've got Stab Your It with a little pop-up and a knife. The knife is from Hero Arts. Stab Your It and this Happy Halloween are from Kindred Stamps. The stencil is the same bloody stencil I used on the other card, also from Kindred, and the Happy Halloween is stamped in red. So that's that. That's card number 50, and we've made it to the end of the cards I designed for Halloween this year, but I actually have a few more cards I'd love to share with you. I made these 2 cards at a Spellbinders event last month, and I didn't design them, so I didn't want to include them with my original 50, but lots of fun stuff going on here. All of these stamps and dies and everything are from Spellbinders. It was a Spellbinders event, and this is when I knew I needed that skeleton hand because there were so many things I wanted to make it hold. This one was a make and take, so I actually made this at the Spellbinders warehouse. This used a hot glimmer background, and then this is a better press design there in the front, and just a little bit of splattering on it. So I didn't want to include those 2 in the 50. And then I have a few more if you just want to take a look at these. I didn't make these this year, and so I felt like it was cheating to include them, but I'll just sort of flip through them as I am chatting with you. So I love Halloween. I love all of the Halloween card making supplies. You could probably tell by my designs that I have a lot of Halloween stuff. I have more Halloween than any other holiday, that's for sure. And it is so fun for me to get all the Halloween stuff out. I rearrange my craft room so that I have easy access to all the Halloween things. And I just spend as much time in the craft room as I can. My goal was 50 unique designs, and I was able to hit that. I really wanted to have it done early so that I have plenty of time to get these mailed out to people so they can get them at the beginning of October and display them all month. I think if they get them on Halloween, it's kind of too late because they're probably not going to keep them up very long. And you know, I've just like my work displayed for longer than one day, if possible. And yeah, I've got a lot of other things that I want to do in September. So these are cards that I did last year. I think I made 60 Halloween cards last year, something like that, and I just didn't end up sending them all out, so I still had a few left over.